Hello and welcome to the Office of the Patriot. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. My name is Myron Ibarra and I'm your host. Today's discussion will revolve around mass shooter incidents and what it will take to stop them. I don't like to give bad news early on in the video, but I've learned that pulling off the bandage in one quick motion is the best way to deal with the inevitable pain. So the fact of the matter is, it is unlikely that we will ever be able to completely stop mass shooter incidents, but I do believe that we can decrease their frequency and severity substantially. Our government has made several attempts to address mass shooting incidents with a singular focus and is fixated on only one path to deal with this problem, and that's with gun confiscation, most recently via red flag laws. You may have heard the term red flag laws, which has been used a lot by government officials, unelected bureaucrats, and the media today as a holy grail to protect the public and stop mass shooter incidents. What you may not know is how red flag laws are employed. Red flag laws allow the courts to use unvetted information to generate a warrant which orders law enforcement to seize firearms from a citizen without due process. So let's talk about the first step, the court using unvetted information to generate a warrant. The Fourth Amendment to the Constitution is very specific with regard to government's power to search and seize a person or effects from U.S. citizens. The Fourth Amendment states, "The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but under probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized." In order for a court to generate a warrant, due process requires that the court meet certain standards of evidence before it can order a person or thing to be seized. That standard of evidence is probable cause, as noted in the Fourth Amendment. Probable cause is a lesser standard of evidence than absolute certainty or beyond a reasonable doubt. However, it's a higher standard of evidence than reasonable suspicion. If you were to assign a percentage to the amount of evidence that would be needed to reach the evidentiary standard of probable cause, it would be about 51%. In lay terms, probable cause is more likely than less likely that the information presented is true and correct, and thus would justify the issuance of a warrant. At face value, third-party unvetted information doesn't reach that evidentiary standard at all. So where does this unvetted information come from? Well, it comes from family members, neighbors, co-workers, friends, or for that matter, anybody who observes the behavior of a lawful gun owner that they believe may be questionable. Red flag laws allow for lawful removing of a person's firearms from the accused because our government believes it is likely to prevent another mass shooting incident or other violent gun-related crime. This type of reasoning reminds me of one of the verses of the 1980 pop song, "No One Is to Blame." The verse is, "You can feel the punishment, but you can't feel the pain." And that's exactly what red flag laws do. They punish someone by removing their firearms, their ability to protect themselves under the premise that they were likely to commit a crime. So let's play out their scenario. A lawful gun owner is observed by a close friend exhibiting mania and is making claims that he would like to hurt somebody. The close friend advises law enforcement, who in turn submits a warrant request to the court based solely on the information provided. Under the authority of the red flag law, the court issues the warrant to search the gun owner's residence, the gun owner's person, and automobile and seize all firearms. Depending on the specifics of the red flag law, the court, or rather the gun owner, may appeal to the court to have his gun rights reinstated and his firearms returned. However, that could take months and will likely cost that gun owner thousands of dollars. Politicians on both sides of the aisle who support red flag laws claim that this is a small price to pay for the likelihood that a person who had his firearms seized will now not be able to engage in a mass shooter incident, thus saving lives. Unfortunately, these politicians don't account for human behavior or tenacity. Is it reasonable to believe that a person who has embraced and fostered the idea of being a mass shooter will suddenly no longer be a threat because they lost their firearms due to a red flag confiscation? And if you believe that, I've got some prime forest land for you in the high desert. If red flag laws and gun confiscation from law-abiding citizens won't work to curb mass shooter incidents, then what will? Well, I believe in a three-pronged approach. First, eliminating gun-free zones from our cities. Next, the consolidation of mental health and Department of Justice databases. And finally, having all states adopt constitutional carry laws. These actions will reduce mass shooter incidents and all gun crimes substantially. The idea of a gun-free zone in our schools, our parks, and cities saving lives is preposterous in the least and dangerously foolish in reality. That's like asking criminals not to engage in crime because we ask nicely. People who engage in mass shooter incidents, or any type of crime for that matter, are looking for the easiest target. Just as a thief looks for an unlocked car as opposed to a locked one, so will the mass shooter look for areas where guns are not allowed to be carried by law-abiding citizens. Doing away with gun-free zones makes the appeal of mass shooting less appealing because most of these shooters want glory with being recognized by the media as a mass shooter. And they want to be alive to revel in that glory. If there's a high likelihood one of these idiots is going to be shot and killed by a lawful gun owner before he or she carries out that mass shooting incident, the appeal of engaging in this type of crime will likely drop as well. Consolidating mental health databases with DOJ databases and giving read-only access to these law enforcement agencies, still maintaining HIPAA confidentiality throughout the United States, will reduce the chance of people who have been hospitalized and are not eligible to have firearms or are still undergoing mental health treatment from obtaining firearms through lawful means. And finally, having the federal government make all states follow the Second Amendment as it is written. This, in my humble opinion, will have the greatest effect on reducing all gun-related crime and not just mass shooter incidents. According to the Second Amendment, law-abiding citizens in good standing shall not have his or her right to keep and bear arms infringed. In this context, keep refers to maintaining ownership of the firearm, and bear refers to active possession. Limiting the way a person carries their firearm, concealed or not, where they carry their firearm, and what type of firearm they carry should be up to them, not our government. Right now, our government is extremely rabid about gun confiscation. Red flag laws are just another tool for them to use to that end. The United States Supreme Court has already ruled numerous times that red flag laws are at their face unconstitutional, but that still doesn't stop our elected officials from passing and enacting these laws anyway. They refuse to let something as minuscule as, say, the Constitution or the Bill of Rights get in the way of what they view as progress. So they will continue to preach from their bully pulpit that the only way to have a safe society is to unarm our society. I would say that the only way to have a safe society is for every American to take an active role in their own safety. By relying on government, you can be guaranteed that when there are only seconds to take action between protecting your own life from your attacker or being his victim, the government is only minutes away. Thank you for tuning in to today's video. If you like what was presented, please take the time to subscribe, like, and share my channel. As always, have a blessed day and stay safe out there.